You're listening to the Grace City Music Podcast from Grace City Church in Lakeland, Florida. This podcast is intended to keep our community up to date with all that's happening in and through the ministry of Grace City Music. To stay informed about releases and updates, follow us on Instagram at Grace City Music.
Well, we're back to the Grace City Music Podcast. This is Season 2, Episode 1. We're in a different location today. We are in the Grace City Music Studio. And, last season we were doing the podcast and it was like, is anyone listening? Does anyone care? But it was like our little thing for our worship leaders during COVID to stay connected. And like in the last couple months, streams were up on Libsyn.com.
There you go.
And we got some good feedback of people from out of state listening with their worship teams. And so we were like, hey, we need to bring it back. So we brought it back. Season 2, Episode 1.
Yep.
Here we are. I have some special guests with us. Jon Laurenzo's back on the podcast. Jon, how are you?
I'm doing great. An old friend of the podcast.
An old friend of the podcast. And thanks for being here today, man.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here. I feel like every time it's my audition for co-host. That's really what I'm trying to do.
Right. You're slowly working your way. Talk to me about Lead Local. The last time we did this podcast, it was like Thanksgiving week, actually. So the holidays, we kind of took a break, and now we're back with Season 2. Talk to me about Lead Local, this thing you're working on.
For sure. So me and one of my buddies, Matt Harder, old youth pastor friend from Seattle, actually started just realizing that there was a kind of void with youth pastor events in terms of a smaller size gathering where people can just be inspired to stay where they're at and lead local. And that's the whole heart behind it, was trying to create these little events that about 100, 150 is the goal, where we can really get to know everybody. There's a lot of great big gatherings, but not a ton of smaller ones. And so our heart was just, how can I make something where I can meet every youth pastor, every youth leader that comes? And it kind of took off. So we're getting ready to do our first one that's not in Seattle or Florida in May 1st in Orange County. So we're excited about that. And then more to be announced, but it's been fun.
This is a big deal, Jon.
Thank
You're doing an out-of-state one in Orange County.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Wayne's World 2 when they do this event and they don't know if anyone's going to show up or not.
That's my brain all the time.
Wayne Stock.
Events. Yeah, Wayne Stock.
That's what it was called. And they didn't know if the bands were going to show up.
Yeah. Like, it might just be us. It really might.
No, I'm saying it's incredible you're going for it. It's going to be amazing.
Thank you. Back in Orange County, back where you and I used to hang, back in Orange County.
Oh, man, I don't want to talk about that.
Okay.
Where
We'll talk about it.
If you want more info on Lead Local, where do you go?
Our Instagram account right now is the best spot. It's at Lead Local. Real simple. We'll be launching a website after this event in May, but we're really excited about it.
Sweet. If you're into youth ministry at all and you're watching, listening, check this out with Jon. Him and the crew of guys that are really putting it on are just amazing leaders, and we need stuff like this. So check it out. Lead Local. I got Dylan Rizzo in the building, sir.
Come on.
What's up, man?
What's poppin'? I feel like I'm auditioning to be the third co-host.
I will Skype you in for every episode you ever want to be on this.
And I'm down. That's right.
Dylan was an SEU student, now over all things college at Highlands. One College is the name of it.
Yes, sir.
And I've met you on your various ministry adventures down here.
The pilgrimage.
Yes, and once we were at Scarpa's Italian in Lakeland, and I was laughing so hard I was crying. And I just appreciate your sense of humor, man.
I appreciate it. I appreciate yours. We just start appreciating each other all day?
Right. Talk to me about Baggy clothes. Tell me your heart behind Baggy. I feel like in Christianity you have to say, give me the heart behind.
Right.
It's okay if there's no heart behind it. It's just like a dope thing you're doing. Talk to me about Baggy.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I just launched this golf clothing line called Baggy Pants Golf. It's on Instagram at Baggy Pants Golf. But in the original conception of it, I was just playing golf, and I literally saw this picture online of like old Tiger playing in like crazy baggy pants. I was like, I'm going to create this mood board Instagram, like just me and my friends, where I just post like a different golfer and just like crazy baggy 90s vibes like all day. So that's kind of how it started. And then throughout the months, just kind of started like getting a little bit of following, did like a little like putter giveaway. Come on. Gotta love the Instagram giveaways.
Yeah.
Gave away.
Gotta get him with the giveaways.
Got him with the giveaway. So kind of got a little bit of traction there. And then I had this thought. I was like, we should launch some hats. Like, I feel like I could sell like maybe 5 or 6 hats online and it'd be like dope. So I hit my buddy who's a designer. I was like, yo, I got this idea. I want to drop these hats for this Instagram I have. And I give him a few days. He sends me back like a few hats, a hoodie, and like a crew neck. And I was like, okay, I only asked you to send me hats.
Right.
But then it just got my mind racing and I was like, man, we should just drop an entire collection.
Stuff.
So that was probably like November, December. Been working on the collection since, kind of scaled it back a little bit. Was going to originally do like a drop of like 20 or 30 items and just like go crazy. But kind of wanted to draw it back a little bit for the first drop just to see how everything goes. So we dropped last Friday, the site went live and site went live and we dropped like 7 or 8 items. So it was good. I had no expectations going in.
Yeah.
I was really like, let me sell like, I'd love to sell like 20 items.
Right.
And, so it surpassed my expectations and it's been good. So, but it's been fun.
Baggy pants clothing.
Baggy pants clothing.
I love it, dude.
So it's golf
fire.
inspired.
Honestly, it's all fire.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's golf inspired, but not all golf. A lot of it, like this collection, was more streetwear, sweats, hoodies, crew necks, like truckers.
And it all came back to that Florida man, Tyler. What's the famous?
Tiger
Woods.
Tyler Woods.
His cousin.
So it all came back to Tyler Woods and his baggy pants.
Right. Came back to Tiger and his baggy pants. We're praying for his recovery right now.
Yep.
Shout out to Tiger.
Say a prayer for him.
Yeah, say a prayer one time. Pour one out.
Well, dude, I'm pumped on Baggy. And
Crazy.
it's super cool. I got Ryon Flanagan with this. Ryon with
What
an
up?
O.
What up?
How are you, sir?
I'm great.
Great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
If you guys don't know, Ryon is one of our newest hires at Grace City Church. He is our operations director. Is that the official title?
That's right.
Awesome, man.
That's who I am.
How are you, bro?
I'm good, man. Loving life, loving my kids, loving Florida. It's great, man.
Originally from
Ohio. Yes.
We had some similar crossover with Love is Red conference.
That's right, man. In Canton, Ohio. That's right. Yeah, man.
Classic.
Love
What
it.
was the guy's name that ran that?
Jordan Smucker.
Yeah.
Noah Nickel. That's right, man.
Good dudes.
Yeah,
Legends.
Great dudes, man.
You just bought a house?
I just bought a house
Come
on the
on.
south side, man. It's great.
Come on.
We moved from the north side. Lord have mercy.
Hey, we love people on the north side.
We love
people on
north
the
side,
south
too.
side. We
No
love
hating.
everybody in Lakeland, you know?
Amen. Praise God.
Hey, if you go to Grace City Church, you need to get to know Ryon Flanagan. Amazing man, amazing pastor. And I'm pumped you're on episode 1 with us, bro.
Thank you.
Hey, the topic of episode 1 is comparison. Today, we're talking about comparison. I feel like it's something that everybody deals with. It's something that whether you're working on a staff, whether you're on Instagram, like we just all been stuck inside for a year and just looking at everybody else's life, comparison can be this thing that just sucks joy and life out of us. And I think it's like whether you're on the worship team or whether you're on the youth team or whether you're on the Highlands College, whatever it is, like we all struggle with that idea of comparison, right? Mm-hmm. So I just had just a quick idea, maybe encouragement on comparison. If you're at home taking notes, if you're driving your car, don't take notes. But just had a quick idea on comparison. Like I said, I feel like it's something that all of us struggle with. And I really feel like the best way to combat comparison is a greater love for people.
Yeah.
The best way to combat comparison is a greater love for people.
That's good.
I feel like all discontentment in my life is a viewing people problem. Like I feel like even if there's something, unless like everything I'm bummed out about even, unless it's like someone being physically sick with something, it all comes to other people having something that you don't have. And so I think the best way to combat comparison is to ask God for a greater love for people.
Yeah.
Dallas Willard was a famous author who recently passed. He kind of like coined the spiritual disciplines idea. He had said, how I measure all spiritual disciplines, and if I'm becoming more like Christ, am I becoming a more joyful, loving person.
So good.
And I was like, that's such a great earmark, or just a great thing to, when I look at my own spirituality, am I growing in love with people? And so that's something that I really feel like, man, if you're struggling with comparison at all, really lean into just growing for your love for people. And I think that overall is going to help you with discontentment issues, comparison issues. I want to hear from these dudes of going, man, you guys have been in ministry for some of us longer than other people, worked in not just ministry jobs, but you've worked all kinds of jobs. All of us have, I'm sure, have jobs even outside of ministry, or have had jobs outside of ministry. How do you deal with comparison in your life? And I'd love to hear from any of you guys on that.
Definitely. I mean, I think for me, it's been a journey for me. I think I naturally struggle with comparison. I think some people who maybe are more confident don't have as much of that bug, but I have had that bug really my whole life of having to measure my ability, my looks, my finances against other people. It just is the way I was geared. And so I think for me, a huge breakthrough came in comparison when I just realized it was making my world smaller. Like genuinely, it was, I had this thing in me where I was intimidated by talented people, or intimidated by funny people, or intimidated by being in rooms where I wasn't the man. And honestly, I just started realizing my circle was really small because of it. And I think it's funny because, you know, Dylan's here from Highlands, but a huge breakthrough moment for me was getting invited to go to their youth conference Motion, and no one invited me to go. I wasn't speaking. I wasn't going to do any ministry. It was literally just come and be around a bunch of people that are leading way bigger things than you are. And that really started me on a journey probably 3 years ago of just opening my world up and saying, man, I just want to be around great people. And then I think once I got in that groove, it's easier just to celebrate people. Like now when I meet a young preacher that's amazing, I'm not intimidated by their gift anymore. I genuinely am like, oh my gosh, like this guy's amazing. I'm bragging about people at our lunch today, and Dylan's bragging about people at our lunch today. Instead of 4 years ago, I probably would have been like, oh, he's a good guy. You know, that's all I would have said. But honestly, I think I think that's what changed it for me, was just being able to say, man, I don't want a small world. I want a wide open life where I can just meet new people and be in that world. I think that's what the gift of the kingdom is more people.
Wow. A negative comparison keeps your world small.
Yeah.
I think that's so good. What else, boys? What about helps you with comparison?
Yeah, and I love that because it's like everybody's really got their own journey. So like, when I'm comparing myself to another guy my age who may be preaching, leading, speaking, I don't know what his journey looks like beyond Instagram. So it's like I'm comparing my full life to this dude's Instagram profile, which I think, you know, that's something that I've had to, you know, grow in. And then also, you know, I struggled with like, I guess because just growing up, like, being a pastor's kid, hearing, you know, like world-renowned communicators really my whole life, when I first started preaching, it was like, I expected to be Chris Hodges.
Right.
And it was like, my dad had to be like, no. Like, you're Dylan Rizzo, and you've got your own journey and your own calling. And it's always funny because like I'll compare myself to like a 50-year-old man with 30 years in ministry. I'm like, man, I don't lead moments as good as he does, or I don't do transitions. I don't have the authority that he does. And it's like, he's 50.
That's one of the downsides of being around greatness.
Right.
On a consistent
You think
level.
it's the standard.
Right.
For sure. So, and it's like what you said. It's like, it's the thief of joy. Like, because the root of it is like, you have something I don't have. Right. But also like, we've probably got something they don't have.
Absolutely.
So I think it all comes down to just knowing that your journey is different than everybody else's, and you can't compare your whole life to someone's Instagram profile.
Right.
Like if someone were to do that to me, it wouldn't be my true life.
Totally.
You know, so.
And I think what you said about it being, you have something that someone else doesn't have is, we've talked about this before. It's like my favorite leaders. What do I love about Chad Veach? Do I love that he can get into these great charismatic runs when he preaches, and that his ideas about God is like, or do I just love who he is?
Yeah. Right.
Like,
you love his smile.
Yeah, his smile and how tall he is, and like his goofy glasses, and like just him. And it's like, yeah, that's like, you're Dylan Rizzo, you're Jon Laurenzo, you're Ryon Flanagan. It's like, just who you are to the, we had Sean Curran leading worship this last Sunday. And that was like, he was such a great example of that, man, of just being like, he just opened up one song just talking about biodomes.
Totally.
And this biodome in Arizona and these scientists working on this biodome in the 80s. And he was just talking about the wind in the biodome. And then by the end, you're crying. Like,
Totally.
it's unbelievable.
It was
And it was a great lesson.
I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm in it.
It was a great lesson of just like being yourself to the
Totally.
maximum. And that's where God is. And I think that is a great way to combat comparison and to, get that out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Ryan, what about you, buddy?
Man, I remember comparing myself so much to where I started to disqualify myself for like positions and things that I would get into, because you start looking at who's doing what and you're like, why don't I just quit and do something else?
Right.
And I had a moment one time when I was 23. I was bivocational, still working, but doing youth pastoring. And I talked to my dad and I just told him, like, I think I'm going to quit, man. I don't think I'm impacting anybody.
Wow.
I'm not doing great. And my dad said, hey, son, no matter what you do, your last name is always going to be Flanagan.
Yeah.
Come on.
You're always going to be my son. And so then that kind of shifted my perspective on God, too. He's like, he's not looking for me to do anything crazy good. He's just like, you're my son anyway. Just do it in my name. And then it just kind of helped me with comparison. Like, I don't have to compare. We're all God's children. We're all just trying to please him. So that's kind of how I battle that in my own mind and just stay thankful,
Come on, man.
Totally.
You said you're 23 when that happened.
Yeah. 22.
When do you feel like young leaders make that jump? Maybe I'll ask, maybe both you guys are working with college people. When do you see college kids making that jump of how they view themselves and stop trying to sound like other preachers, sound like other worship leaders, lead in like this person, get that weird accent off that? When is the time that they make that change?
Well, I think it honestly, I've seen it both. I've seen young people that blow me away by how confident they are in themselves. And then I've seen old people that still have it on them, honestly, of like, you're not.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I don't think I have an answer. I think for me, it was, again, that time, my mid-20s of, okay, I've been a youth pastor for a little while. All these dreams I had, I've seen some of them come true. And it's still, I was lacking in community. I was still lacking in like a larger, not network, because I hate that word, but like an outside group of friends. People in the city knew who I was and people that I'd been friends with for a long time. But I think that was it for me. And I guess to go off of it, because we are working with college students, one thing that I've been trying really hard to do, and again, it was from a quote from a guy named John Comer, who's a pastor out in Portland.
Yeah.
He said this, he said, at some point, if I cannot look at someone following me and say, follow me as I follow Christ, meaning having like a repeatable lifestyle in ministry, he was like, then I've just failed. And one thing that I observed in our generation, because I'm 30 and there's definitely a young leader group that's a little bit younger than us, is that the guys that I look to seemed like Superman to me. Like they just seemed like they were unapproachable. They seemed like they didn't struggle with the same thing I struggled with. So for me, for our young guys in their 20s, I'm trying to show them, hey, dude, like, I do not have this figured out as much as you might perceive when you see me on a stage or when I've been preaching for 10 years and then you hear me write a message. And I think that is part of this journey towards just beating down comparison, is being like, no, dude, I get insecure in rooms like that.
Yeah,
I get scared in rooms like that. There's guys I get around that even though it shouldn't affect me at all, when they tell me how many people come, I get a little bit on edge and I want to talk about how many people come. That's that self-doubt. But bringing our young guys and girls into that world and saying, dude, I'm 30 and it happens still, hopefully speeds that process up a little bit of not feeling like I have to be something that I'm not, or even, even when I am doing the right thing to try to get better, hopefully I just have more peace in that process for a young leader is my hope.
Come on, man. So good.
I love that too, because I think you said it earlier, it's just like being yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, it's really hard for God to bless who you pretend to be.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
True.
So good.
When we try to be someone else, it's like, God can't bless that because that's not you.
Mm-hmm.
And something I even heard, like, being a 25, I'm 25, I've been in ministry for like maybe 4.5 years. And it was like, I put so much pressure on myself early on to change the world.
Wow.
And it was actually Denny Duran who was like, hey, in your 20s, you don't change the world, you develop.
Wow.
In your 30s, that's when you do substantial stuff. And different people are on different journeys. I'm not saying you can't do substantial stuff in your 20s, but it took this like unnecessary pressure that I was putting on myself to really like, oh, I got to be preaching here, here, and here. And
no doubt.
I'm not getting invited here, here, and here. And it's like, no. Run your race. Because like your 20s are really for just developing. Mm-hmm. Your 30s are, then you start doing different things. But I feel like it's being yourself. It's throwing off that unnecessary pressure. I've got to be something else. And that's even something we've been preaching to our students back in Birmingham and Tuscaloosa and Auburn. Just that idea of like, I've got to see myself the way God sees me.
Wow.
And I feel like that really cures comparison right there, because it's like, if I see myself the way God sees me, I really don't need to compare. Like, I'm good.
Yeah.
So I think, it's just being yourself, throwing off that unnecessary pressure, and then, not getting in that rat race to, man, I got to do this, and this by the age of 28.
Right.
No, God's got it. Like, He's going to control it. So that's kind of been my journey a little bit.
God can't bless the person you're pretending to be. It's fire. Is that what you said? It's awesome. I love that. So I don't know, guys. That's my prayer for our team. I've just been thinking about comparison, and I just don't want any of us, especially in this season when we're maybe some of us are still stuck inside and whatever, and it's harder we're doing our first live album recording coming up April 18th in over a year and a half. So it's like we've all taken this break from kind of what you're talking about, achieving or maybe taking ground in the way that you want to take ground. I just don't want any of our team to get sideways and stuck in ruts of comparison. Yeah. And so I just so appreciate all y'all's voice. And that wisdom was just so great. We do have the Revival Town vinyls that just dropped. Check those out. Thank you for listening to that album and checking it out. And like I said, April 18th, we got a whole new batch of songs coming at 6 p.m. at church. Our guy, Mac Brock, will be with us, Evan Kraft, Jameel Walls. It'll be a whole night of Grace City music and friends. And so come and join us. That's 2 weeks after Easter. And we're looking forward to it. I would love, Mr. Ryon Flanagan, if you would just pray for our team that's listening to this and just pray comparison away and that we grow in love and enjoy in this season. Let's do it.
Well, Jesus, we thank you so much that first you died for us and that you love us so much, God. And as we're walking day to day, God, and we're just doing life, allow us to realize that we don't have to compare ourselves to each other. That's not what you want, God, but we collectively work together. There's a bunch of different pieces in the body of God that work well together. And God, you're just so pleased with all of us. And so for those people that are struggling with comparison, God, just begin to rest their hearts, give them peace, let them know that you love them exactly how they are and you made them that way, God, and that you want the best for them and you believe the best about them. It's in your son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, y'all. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Grace City Music Podcast from Grace City Church in Lakeland, Florida. To stay informed about releases and updates, follow us on Instagram at Grace City Music.